Hello crypto friends, hope you're doing well. Fresh off the beach, ready to look at some action. Finally things moving, and the bulls are looking to close the week out pretty strong. We're going to look at Bitcoin, Ethereum, BCH, and then we're going to look at a bunch of altcoins that were voted on for today's video, and we'll start on the weekly time frames. So we're still looking at the lower highs on the weekly to break at 68.23. That's the level that I'm watching because that's the highest price we've seen in the past 8 weeks now, 2 months, and it's a double top. That tether reaction that we had double topped at that level on Coinbase Pro, so it stands out to me. I'm also watching the 12-period exponential resistance, which has rejected the price 4 times in the last 6-7 weeks, and we're heading towards that level if the bulls do see any continuation into this coming week. We're still very tight, but the tighter we get, in my opinion, the sooner we're going to see a break. So looking at the daily time frame, continuation move here with healthy consolidation. And if you look at it zoomed in, just the move from the low, we had brief consolidation. This is definitely a bull flag pattern from that low. And one thing that I pointed out in a recent video, I switched over to the oil chart to give an example, is we had a bounce and we had higher lows and higher highs with a lack of any real follow through once we got that higher high. So I said zoom out and we look for a bear flag. This is the opposing scenario where we're looking for a bull flag. So I'm looking on the 4-hour time frame and we have a clear loss of support, and we had the low, lower high, and lower low. Only one candlestick of follow through. The bulls started to show up, and then we shifted momentum significantly when we confirmed it. So if we do not get follow through, if the bear break only lasts one candlestick, zoom out and look for the potential of a bull flag somewhere. And that was the example on the daily time frame, very brief, and then a continuation move. I was stopped into a position, about a 33 position, and it was due to this level breaking because once we broke that 4-hour support, I said, all right, this is our daily higher low looking to form, which is now key support short term at 63.13. And then if we broke that level, that's the kind of move that I want to get in on for some of that momentum. And just like that, what also stands out psychologically, we had the 2-week range that we were trading in, a very clear bear break. We can say the majority of this candlestick can be attributed to stops being triggered and shorts jumping in on that bear break. That was only one candlestick. There was no follow through there. The bulls did a really good job of buying the dip the last 5-6 days, and we are right back in this range again. So bulls really want to break 6,500 to get over the top of this range, and that will have us looking at this weekly time frame very closely for the potential of that break of the lower highs. So things getting a little interesting, and we'll see how long the bulls can keep up this momentum. We had a little bit of a heads up from BCH with action leading into the weekend, and then ETH just gave us a heads up, which we'll look at on BTC. And there's definitely coins that you can play for bigger percentage moves. BTC is more of a less risk, less reward scenario here, and moves like Litecoin and ETH and BCH, they're all moving much more significant percentages. So you're going to be trading whichever one matches your risk tolerance essentially. Are you looking for high risk, high reward? Then you're probably looking at names other than Bitcoin, but obviously correlations to Bitcoin are very important for us to keep watching. So what we were looking at first, let's go to BCH because it's been blown up. Actually, one more thing I want to point out with Bitcoin, shorts are closing. So whenever I see significant shorts closing, I look back and I say, all right, where were we the last time we were this low? And when I look at the daily time frame, I can say the last time there were this few shorts, as we've dropped about 10,000 in the past few weeks, last time we were this low was September 1st and 2nd. So I then want to know what was the price of Bitcoin September 1st and 2nd, and it was back here before the 74 top. So we were trading at about 7,200, and we are currently about 15% below that level. So that was a little bit of a precursor to the strength of this move as well, because if you look at Bitcoin, the last 3 days has had significant short covering. And while that's going on, while you're seeing healthy consolidation, that's a great sign for the bulls as well. So it's worth noting that we're getting a little bit of a shift. We just need follow through on the weekly time frame for the bulls to start to change this trend. And that's going to completely shift the narrative of the cryptocurrency space for a lot of people. And I do believe that articles and momentum and things like that will reflect it as well. And we'll see how mainstream picks up a potential weekly lower high break. Obviously, we have to break the weekly lower highs first. So BCH has had an awesome week, and BCH is about to change the weekly trend. It's percentage-wise away about, well, it's even less since I last looked. So it's a couple percentage points away from changing this trend on the weekly. We had the low of 407. We had a higher low at actually we'll call that a double bottom, 406.16. So that's certainly close enough for me to call that a double bottom. And then the top of the last bounce was 592, we'll call it. and we just topped out at 579. So if we break that 592 level, get over 600, that is the first weekly trend change in a very long time on one of these major names. And that will be notable for the sector as a whole. Again, there is a fundamental reason behind this with the fork coming up, and we'll see potential profit taking. The harder we run into that actual block going through, the more likely to sell the fork scenario, at least in the short term. But the question is, how far can the bulls run up before then, and can they change this weekly trend first? And again, potentially a precursor looking at these other names as well. So checking in on the daily time frame, huge bull volume, huge follow through, and getting right back up towards that level. So significant, and we'll see if it trickles over into these other names as well. 4-hour time frame, very overextended. Things are getting overextended because it is a news-driven event. Hourly uptrend is very clear. The 15-minute, as long as the bulls hold 562.75, they are in full control. That's a potential time frame to use. Whenever I'm looking at what time frame I want to use on a stock or a coin, I look back and say, how consistent has it been? Have there been fake outs where we've seen bear breaks but the bulls recover? And I look at this 15-minute time frame and I say, no, it's pretty in line with the uptrend remaining in full control. We grinded these exponential supports a couple times, but it's a pretty clear trend. So I would be pretty comfortable using the 15-minute and knowing that the hourly chart, when we do consolidate, we'll likely see a pretty solid pullback. Would also have me walking up a stop. And in hindsight, obviously playing BCH was the way to go. But I only had a stop buy triggered for Bitcoin. So let's look at ETH. So ETH gave us some signals before Bitcoin did. And here's Bitcoin on the 5-minute time frame with an explosion in volume. That occurred at 1050. ETH, we were looking at a break on the daily for that little bull flag continuation move at 201.75. And ETH broke that first. And if we look at the 5-minute time frame, we broke it right here at 1015. So that was the first little signal. ETH has the daily brief consolidation, and we just broke to a higher high. So we also got an alert from the alert system here with Ethereum sending off a hourly abnormal volume alert. And that went off at, let's see, that was 3:30 UTC. So looking at here, and I've got my time frames on ETC, but it was back here when Bitcoin was trading, or I should say Ethereum was trading at 202. So that abnormal volume was picked up on the volume before this huge volume spike. About 10-15 minutes later, after the alert system said, hey, there's abnormal volume going on, it just exploded in volume for that 10-minute move up. And that's when Bitcoin exploded as well. So that was the same 10 minutes for Ethereum and Bitcoin, but the abnormal volume and bull break had already occurred on Ethereum about 10-15 minutes previously. So nice follow through for all these major names. And let's now look at how some of these altcoins did. We're going to look at, let's see, first one is Neo USD, and this is on Bitfinex. So we're going to look at weekly time frames for everybody. And for Ethereum, we've got to look at the weekly time frame and the short-term action as well. Forgot that. So the next key resistance level for Ethereum is 204.35, and we actually did break that level already. So now we're looking down at up at 205.66 and 207.97. And if we were in the same scenario, if we are as strong as BCH currently is, we'd be currently looking up at 255. So you can tell a ways away, 25% from up at that level, which is why BCH's move stands out so much more. But we're in a tightening weekly equilibrium now. If we set a lower high compared to 255, this weekly chart could continue to tighten for another month. So if we do see a slow move up and another 10% and then pull back, this could stay tight for a while. We know Bitcoin's certainly tight. So Neo USD on the weekly, we have a low down here at 1368, and I'm looking at the most important resistance of 2530. There's also another level at 2080 to be watching. And the bulls are barely holding 1368. We bounced off 1468. Guess that's a solid 5%. A little bit deceiving on this time scale, but if we get a break of the lower highs, we'll make note of it. But until then, it is still in a clear downtrend. The daily time frame, we can see a resistance level at 1807. So there's plenty of resistance levels we can pick out. Again, we did see a break most recently to a lower low on the daily time frame. So still in a downtrend on the daily and the weekly. In the 4-hour chart, isn't a nice solid uptrend, but I would rather be looking at a name. Well, actually, I mean, we did break. We're in a fairly similar standpoint. It just looks a little bit different than where Bitcoin broke bearish from its tight range, but there we are getting back into where we were trading in mid-October. So fairly similar to where Bitcoin is right now. So nice follow through move, big bull spikes, hourly higher lows are going to be important. 1645, when we break the hourly higher lows, we zoom out and look for 4-hour consolidation. Bulls are still in control, but it is a bit of a double top up here, 1693 and 1695. So if we double top like that and then lose the hourly uptrend, that would be a red flag short term that more consolidation is coming. But the bulls have a lot of space to work with, 1645, to find this hourly higher low. ADA BTC, this is on Bitfinex. So we have a higher low on the weekly as well. 969 was the original low. Now we're looking to bounce off of 1082. Anything under 1389 is just a lower high. So bulls have to break the weekly downtrend. Still not doing it. Solid bull move, got over 12.1. Actually, that is the level to be watching. So 12.1, 12.11, and 12.7 is a triple top. Bulls have to get over that level. There's a nice amount of space if they are able to do so. Certainly overextended on these time frames as that resistance was hit. So a nice top fishing play for potential bears. The 4-hour RSI is up over 80, but we're still within striking distance to make a clear move over this level. Exponential hourly support has been holding, so clear hourly uptrend. Last higher low was 1155, and even if we do reject from this triple top, we would anticipate, unless there's huge bear volume, we would anticipate a higher low on the hourly and perhaps at least one more attempt. But everybody is looking good for these short-term moves. You know, these hourly and 4-hour charts are all in uptrends, but it's the daily and weekly charts that do still need work. ZRX USD on Bitfinex. So this is trying to be a little brief bull flag of consolidation on the weekly time frame, but the daily chart would have to change the trend back in favor of the bulls in order to get any follow through on that. So 755.3 is the must hold support. The bulls have to form a higher low and then see a bull break of 8394 to change this daily trend. And then that has us zoom out to the weekly and say, all right, that's our weekly higher low. Let's see if the bulls can break these clear lower highs that have been the case for most of the year. So that's the key tightening daily range to be watching. We're seeing bearish action right now, which is a little bit odd. It does stand out because everybody else is seeing so much bullish action, and we just dropped down to fresh lower lows on ZRX. So probably the most underperforming coin, certainly on Coinbase with its limited listings, but tightening daily range to be watching on ZRX. XMRBTC, this is on Binance. So we have the low, the higher low on the weekly time frame, and it changed the trend. 19276 is the level to break. So tightening range on the weekly. The daily chart is changing that trend. So that's a nice little forward glimpse into what ZRX has to do on the daily. So we had the trend change where we held support, and now we broke the last bull attempt. Next level to be watching for resistance is 17.3. So that's a higher low compared to the low of consolidation, and now a break of the lower highs. So we zoom out to the weekly and say, all right, our weekly higher low is established. Can the bulls get continuation over 18,955 to change this weekly trend? It's going to be a very interesting end of 2017 with how tight some of these weekly charts are getting. Short term, the bulls are definitely extended like everybody else, but they're still hitting higher highs. They're in control. Hourly support down at 16,849. So most of these moves are high enough above their last hourly consolidation level that we can anticipate that the next consolidation we see will still maintain those hourly higher lows. XRP, BTC, I believe this is Bitfinex as well. So the weekly time frame has the high and the low, has been very tight inside bar currently forming this week. This is the kind of scenario where bulls want to see a weekly equilibrium after the very wide range on the weekly time frame, but we certainly need more follow through really above the 8s for us to be seeing that pattern playing out. So the daily chart has been pretty tight. Looks like we did make a bit of a bull break today. So I'd say a new daily higher low level is 7075, and the most important short-term resistance is 7408. And that would show a bull break over that 2-week tightening range that we were seeing in most of these coins. WANBTC on Binance. Weekly time frame has a couple higher lows to be watching. Most recently, it was at 1396. Most important level for the bulls to break is 22.1. Break 22.1, and that's a trend change on the weekly time frame. Daily chart certainly has a long way to go to get up to those levels. We've been consolidating for the last 4 days. Daily higher low has to hold 1547 to keep the daily uptrend intact. And it's a pretty significant pullback, so we could look for a higher low on the daily to hold, but then a lower high on that bounce follow through because we have pulled back so much from that recent high. So that's where we stand overall. Certainly interested in these coins now as the bulls are continuing on BCH. We're going for this move. We're going for this weekly level. 591.88 getting closer and closer. Bitcoin, still healthy consolidation after the bull break. And we'll look for the hourly chart to try and form a higher low. Still a potential hourly bull flag at this point. Exponential supports are going to be catching up. So let's see what the bulls can do tonight. Put an exclamation on the end of the week. And it'll be very interesting to watch going forward. Appreciate you watching. Hope you all continue to do good things. And not sure if I got any end of the videos for today. We'll see you next time.